everyone.
Hello.
Hope you're all doing great where you are. It's actually a sunny day here, although it's cold, surprisingly cold. Weatherman says unseasonably cold, whatever, you know.
Well, we had a beautiful day in Montana yesterday, but we have snow and rain coming in today.
See,
Huh?
the weather is schizophrenic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, Art Expo New York. Mary Lynn was there. It was a good show. Good attendance. The attendance was actually almost exactly to the person as it was the year before. We had just under 200 exhibitors. And Mary Lynn, tell us about your experience.
Lots of people, lots of traffic past our booth. We talked with many and got lots of feedback from interior designers and collectors, and ended up selling in the last 10 minutes of the show one of our biggest pieces, which was outstanding.
Great.
But yeah, it was very, very exciting. Also got best booth design award, which was lovely.
Great.
Yeah.
So Rennie, would you echo that? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I really liked the engagement we had with folks. We had it almost felt like we even had more engagement than we did in Miami. So people really had questions. They were interested. They took cards. We made contact with 3 designers, including one who actually practically buttonholed Mary Lynn at the end of the show. So that's good. We're still following up with them. We'll see where those go.
That's great. So I just remember during setup, Mary Lynn, I was in their booth. I was chatting with them, saying hello, and Mary Lynn said, "Okay, I have a problem, and I need help." And I was like, "Okay, what?" She said, "You guys, you've created a monster."
Yeah.
Apparently, Rennie is a nonstop social media poster, interactor. She's all over it.
Yeah.
So, yay, good for you.
It was good.
It would be nice if I could get Instagram to take my credit card so I could boost some of our posts, but they're having issues that they won't answer my problem. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that.
But you boosted a lot of posts.
I did.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then the other person that was there with their artwork, if not in person, was Linda Roberts. She was one of the Redwood Art Prize winners, and her work was up in the Art Prize booth. Unfortunately, the 4 winners, none of their work sold. The booth was sponsored by and managed by Lisa Stewart, who some of you might have met, who is the executive director of the Santa Fe Gallery Association. So they were there as a partner. And she was a great advocate for the artwork hanging in the space. But we didn't get a sell, but we did get a lot of exposure and some interest in what was the art prize and so forth. And then we've also we're just tabulating and finishing selecting the Art Expo New York photo contest winners. So the people that were the finalists for the photo contest, their work was on screens where people could, there was a QR code and they could then go on and vote. So we're actually, Laura and I were just working on that yesterday. So that'll probably be we've got till next week to make the announcement, but we'll probably do it tomorrow or the next day. So kind of rounding everything up for Art Expo New York. And then moving on from there. So moving on from there would be kind of taking one short step back to the, really the last two calls have been about social media and doing what Rennie's been doing with, boosting and creating reels and seeing what your results were. So anybody got a report on that?
Well, the results from us at McP2 Art is that we have a lot more followers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah. And not always artist followers, but other followers as well. Because I do try and look to see if it's artists or if it's non-artists. And of course I would as much as I love to have artists follow me or us, I would really prefer non-artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because those are hopefully the folks
Yeah.
that can turn into be a collector.
Correct. Yeah.
But
So
maybe you
anybody
can,
else?
maybe you can teach other artists.
Well,
That's
and,
what,
and some people do that very successfully, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, Chris and Angela Gebhardt have a lot of artists following their
Mhm.
escapades throughout the world, and they don't mind. It's flattering to them.
Sure.
Going back to Art Expo. Linda, I didn't expect your piece to sell, not because it's not a good piece of work, but because when you're there, it's a completely different deal.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would do now in your position is make sure you get a picture of it. You post it and say, hey, I was the art prize winner at Art Expo New York 2025. This is the piece that won the event. It's titled this and blah, 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 and post that a million times. And I bet it sells, right? I mean, that's what I would do.
I did that right after the show. Family went up there and took pictures of going into Art Expo, the crowd at Art Expo, the art prize booth, and then my piece.
Yeah. Good.
So they did that, and I blasted it on my Instagram and Facebook pages. Lots of likes and comments, but no other interaction at this point. What about if I send an email to my email list?
Yeah,
Do you
good
think
idea.
that would be beneficial?
Sure. Yeah. You could do a whole story on it.
Okay.
I did
Okay.
this piece, submitted it to the contest. I found out I won on this date. The piece was displayed at Art Expo New York, But I mean, it just goes to show you how people want an experience and to be entertained. And when they get to meet the artist and shake their hand and hear the story and all that kind of stuff, there becomes this, 6 degrees of separation that goes away. And that's how you sustain collectors and
Exactly. And I do regret that I wasn't able to be there. It would have, I know the Art Expo experience is amazing, and this would have been just a bonus.
Yeah, but, you can't afford to do everything, so.
Exactly.
Got to pick and choose your battles there, yeah.
Yep. There were 2 winners that were at the show, correct?
There were. Gavin was there.
Uh-huh.
And Rhea was there. Rhea was actually exhibiting her work in another gallery booth. So that's why he was there.
Okay.
And Gavin was there because he'd never exhibited anything anywhere.
His work is great.
Yeah, a young man with a really terrific story. So yeah, it was good to have him. And he really was there kind of on a New York holiday. But and checking out what is Art Expo all about, what's an art fair all about, and kind of gaining some background and knowledge.
Right.
But Linda, here's another idea. There's the announcement article that was published for Art Business News, And then next week, there'll be a dedicated article about each of the four art prize winners. So there'll be an article about you next week
Okay,
published, and the art prize winners are also a feature in next week's Redwood newsletter. So
okay,
and so is Art Expo New York. So there'll be, even for Mary Lynn and Rennie, there'll be an opportunity there as well, because there's a whole wrap up report that'll be
mhm,
linked, that will then have your names in it as the best booth design winner,
okay,
all that
okay.
kind of stuff. There's an opportunity there to push that out.
Right, to share that. I've not gotten any questions about the article. Do you have the information you need for that article about me? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's stay on the subject of follow-up for a minute, because it's probably the hardest thing for any of you to do, because you're all artistic and you're artists, and you know a lot about canvas or photography or aperture openings or light or color and form and all of that kind of stuff. But sales is probably, a different hat. So you got to take your artist hat off and put on your sales hat once in a while, almost like shedded skin, and put on a new character. And you have to follow up with people, as hard as it may be. And it's probably the hardest thing you have. Shipping's easier than following up with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So any name that you have or contacts that you've made, should all be in your database, and then you have to follow up. I'm going to give you my hardest follow-up story ever in my life. And it's probably even harder to tell because everybody on the call is a woman. Well, this lady walks into Art Expo New York in the 80s, and I'm representing Martin Lawrence Galleries with Keith Haring, Andy Warhol. And we had some Fred Prescott sculptures there. Fred Prescott makes those moving sculptures, they're called something, I can't remember. Kinetic sculptures. And I had been dealing with this gallery in Germany, and she walks in, and I made the biggest faux pas I've ever made in my life, and I've never done it since. And I was in my 30s back then, so this is over 30 years ago. And I said to her, "Oh, I won't mention her name, but I go, you're pregnant."
Oh
she-
my God.
Oh,
Oh.
And she goes, "No, I'm not."
Oh, Eric.
Oh my God. Oh. The guy I was working with just started shaking his head, and I was, oh my God. And so the hardest follow-up I ever had was to follow up with her after the show, because she showed some interest in Fred Prescott's sculptures and taking him on as an artist in Germany. And she gave me an order for $70,000 5 months later after the show. But I had to fax her, because we didn't have computers back then, right? Well, we had computers, but we didn't have email and stuff. But I had to fax her and call her, and oh my God.
When you did your follow-up, did you apologize for your faux pas?
I don't remember. I must have. But it just goes to show you that even when you stick your foot way down your throat, you can still make a sale, in the future. But follow-up is really, Kelly's sitting upstairs in her office shaking her head at me. I don't know, you've heard that story before, I'm sure, right, honey?
It's
Anyway.
never a good one. It's never a good one.
But it ended well, so
Yeah.
that's good.
And
But I was just wondering, Eric, if I could tell you about my follow-up story with Art Santa Fe last summer.
Yeah.
Because I didn't sell anything. Well, the last day, guy came to my booth and he loved this big sunset that I had done. And it was a showstopper already there at Art Santa Fe. And you know, I did the thing of taking it off the wall and taking a picture of him with it and getting his contact information as soon as I could, had his wife there. He went off and his wife said, you know, he has a real problem. He just keeps buying art and it's building up in the garage. We just don't have room for it. But he loved the painting. So, but he went away because he was afraid he would impulsively buy it. Right. So I'm trying to navigate this, and I'm new, you know, to the art world and everything. And so eventually they left and the show was over, but I had his name and I waited a few days and I sent him an email. Hi, Edwin. It was great to meet you. I know that you like the sunset photo, just checking in, sunset painting. And didn't hear from him. So, you know, as you know, it's nerve-wracking, right? You're waiting for them to come in. Finally, he wrote and said, well, we just don't think we have enough room for it in the house, but I want to put it in my office.
Oh,
And I said, okay. So, but it was a back and forth, and it was kind of like waiting, giving him enough time to think about it. And then, you know, just sort of this
Well,
you know, waiting game. And I had already agreed though to ship it for free. I didn't know how much it was going to cost. It ended up being $600 just to ship it. But it was such a coup for me at that price level too. And I keep in contact with him, and maybe we'll see him this summer.
yeah,
he
excellent.
was probably negotiating with his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Okay, all right. I'll put it in my office.
Yeah. And he's an architect, so I was like, oh, that's perfect, you know.
Ah, great.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
And to tell you the truth, you know, salespeople, you know, I would rather hear no than be indecisive. Then at least you can move on to the next customer or the next collector and then say, okay, I'll show you. And the way to end that is if somebody finally says no is, okay, great, let's stay in touch. You might like one of my pieces in the future. That's it, right? And just
It's on my newsletter list, so every month I'm sending out pictures of new work. So
Yeah.
maybe that will bring him to Art Santa Fe again, without his wife, maybe. in July, but-
Yeah,
I have a
busy.
question. I wanted to know how sales were overall in New York, and how they compared to last year. Of course, I'm sure we're all thinking about the economy right now and how that might impact our sales. I'm going to be doing Art Santa Fe this year. So, you know, a little bit, there's some trepidation around that, but just wanted to ask a question.
shockingly, our numbers were down leading into the show for attendance, whether it be complimentary tickets, purchase tickets, trade attendance, VIPs. We have 4 or 5, 6 different categories. I don't know, Linda knows all of those, but they were all down. There wasn't one category that was up. We cleaned up our mailing list recently and took out a lot of people that hadn't even clicked on an email in a couple of years. And what we discovered was some of those people don't click on emails until they just want to buy a ticket. And so we sent those people an email back, and all of a sudden registration started going up. We were still below last year's numbers, probably in the neighborhood 8% or so. But when we got on site, we had more people than we even expected. It was packed. And on opening night, I mean, every exhibitor in the place had a big smile on their face. It was super crowded. Friday opened up, and Friday morning, who's going to be at an art show at 11 o'clock? Well, surprisingly, there was a crowd waiting to get, you can talk to Kelly about it. She runs registration and ticketing. And, you know, we were busy right off the bat, not like Thursday night, but Friday afternoon, it got really super crowded. Saturday and Sunday were both very crowded. Sales were outstanding. Samir Samoon sold it. You can go, have you posted that yet, Linda, on our website?
No, it'll post next week.
Okay, so we go around and interview as many people as we can, and then they actually tell us what, well, you see the red dots up. They tell us what they sold, how much they sold it for, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if I look at the floor plan, Perseus Gallery sold 8 pieces just on Friday. Samir Samoon sold a whole, he always does.
So like 11 pieces, the highest price was 38,000.
Oh,
There
oh my
was
gosh.
a new exhibitor from Mexico, Alejandro Barsic, I think is how you pronounce it. And the poor guy, he was there, but his artwork wasn't. It got held coming through customs. And so it didn't get there until Friday morning. He had a couple of pieces, that he had brought with him, I guess, that, he kind of had for Thursday night. But he sold 2 of his pieces, and his pieces are in the 15 to 25,000 range. There was a lot of artwork that was sold in the hundreds. A lot of artwork that was sold in the mid 4 figures, $1,000 to $5,000. There were artists that had been there, several years in a row, with solo booths, similar to what, some of you have taken in the past, and just did so well.
Hmm.
They, I think overall, people were, the comments that we've gotten back have been very positive. So, there were commissions that were taken, there were gallery placements that were made, and artwork sales were good. We were concerned because there was on Saturday, April 5th, there was the countrywide protest gatherings. And there was a huge one in New York, in Manhattan. And we were worried that that would impact our attendance. It didn't. Apparently people attended that and attended us. So yeah, so it was good. And I think that the response that we've already seen for Santa Fe, I think it will be good. We're in conversation with the folks from the International Folk Art Market, and later today I've actually got a call with the tourism team, and we're hoping that we can even get some shuttle service going back and forth between IFAM and Art Santa Fe.
That would be
So,
great.
That would be great.
That
So
would
we're
be
working on it.
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's promising.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it was just kind
It's
of,
comforting.
yeah, it
'Cause
was
we're
just,
all freaked out.
it was almost like, I mean, I didn't look at my portfolio for the last month, but I had to today because I had to contribute to my IRA with tax purposes, but, it was like nobody did, and they just came and spent money and everything was, look, I was surprised, right? I mean, because I expected the same type of thing. We've been in a really turmoil market, stock market, and, the news is just blaring all this stuff going on all the time, and it can get people jitterish, but they, when people go to art fairs, I think they kind of let all that stuff go, and they really enjoy meeting artists and galleries and talking about expression and art, art things. And they were, you couldn't, I'll tell you one thing. Empress Gin had a sponsorship booth. Well, Mary and Susan know this, right, right at the main area where you walked in, and the line was almost to the door. It was literally, there had to be 50 people in line waiting to get gin and tonic or whatever they were getting to go walk around the show. And I called Jeff, our operations director, and I'm like, hey, what's going on at the cafe and the bars back there? He goes, oh, they're totally full. There's really big lines. I'm like, oh, shoot, because I was going to have some of these people go back there. They were serving the gin back there. But yeah, everybody, yeah, it was good. So. What else do we want to talk about today, Linda?
Well, one of the questions that Sophie had proposed was setting up your inventory. And what is a good way to do that? You know, one of the things that is important about inventory is if you have an inventory system, even if it's just a spreadsheet, even if it's a handwritten list, you know where it is. You know, if a piece, you know, sunrise in Montana is in gallery number 2, and another piece is in gallery number 1. Okay, you know where those pieces are.
Right.
So, you know, let's talk about how do you set up? How have you got your inventory set up, and are you feeling confident that it's successful the way you've got it set up? Share some ideas with the group.
Well, I've done a couple of things. I'm on Artwork Archive, which is a great platform, but I've also started doing like a database of my own, my personal database with all of my art, you know, the size, the edition, you know, how much and all that stuff, buyers, and where it is. So right now my art is only in one gallery, but that's kind of a moot point because it could easily be in multiple galleries. And that helps me see where my work is and see what I have left.
Yeah, there's software for all this
Yeah.
stuff. It really
Yeah.
depends, you know, I mean, you know, some artists can only paint 12 pieces a year. Well, you know, they know where all 12 pieces are, like right here in their head, right? I mean, that's
Right.
easy stuff. You, Linda, yeah, you probably have 1,000 pictures or photographs out there that, you know, you would have to.
Thankfully not printed, but yes,
Right.
I have a lot. Yes.
Well, digital printing changed all that, so.
Yes.
I mean, you know, when I was selling art in the 80s and 90s, we had 3 vaults that were about 20 feet wide and probably 100 feet deep, full of art, you know, whether it be originals or serigraphs, because you didn't have digital printing. So you had to do the whole edition at once. And when the Northridge quake hit, oh my God, they were just, a couple of them were destroyed. So, but, you know, I digress. But they have software for that. And then those of you that don't paint very quickly and you know, you've got a different story there because you just know where all your paintings are.
Sophie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, regarding the inventory, I looked over Artwork Archive, which Linda is using. To me, it's overwhelming. It's too much. It's there's so much stuff on there. They can manage your stuff for you. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I couldn't take it. And last week I found Art Sala, which is much more simplified, much more simple. There's not all this fluff around it, and it's really quiet. I like it not to, you know, I don't want to get an email every day telling me what I'm doing and what I'm doing wrong and everything. So Art Sala seems to be really good. I'm gonna try it out. Even if you do only do 12 paintings a year, they add up. So you need to know where they are, and it needs to be done as soon as possible for sure. So if anyone else wants to go see it, I think it's very important to have an inventory set up.
Yep. And that's why I'm kind of backing off of Artwork Archive.
I don't
It's
like
so
them.
involved. It is so involved. And
As have we've backed off too.
yeah.
And
I don't
still
like I
art
don't
style.
like them, and they keep trying to sell you stuff, and they and it's too much. And I also have a small problem with my artwork being in a cloud somewhere and someone else has access to it. So I'm also debating that. I know that's the way it works, but I'm not crazy about that. You know,
I agree.
if what happens if someone gets their hand on it or whatever, it's hacked, or that's also very touchy for me.
How do you deal with that with your website then? Because I mean, I think anybody can pull off of your website or not. I don't.
It depends on how the website is set up. Like I'm with Art Storefronts, which is also very aggressive, but it works for me. But they have a feature where you can't right click and download something. So you can screenshot it, but that isn't going to give you much. But it does not let you right click,
Okay.
which I think is really important.
But
Yes.
I'm just wondering on a website, my own website.
Mhm.
Yeah. At some point you kind of have to cross your fingers and because
Well,
we
one
need
of
to
the other
expose
things that I would
ourselves, but we
say-
also need to back up, you know, let it have trusted. I don't know.
Well, one of the other things about keeping inventory is the other side of it. It's not just what's not sold. It's also what is sold and who it was sold to.
Mhm.
That starts to give you, provenance and all of that, but it also lets you know who you could sell something else to.
Mhm.
And I think that that's really important, what they bought, what size it was.
Mhm.
And that kind of becomes an easy reference for going back and saying, hey, this new image of mine, this new piece of mine would be a great companion to the other one that you bought.
Can I say something?
Sorry, Linda, regarding that, I'm sorry, I just lost my track of mine. Go ahead, Linda. I just
Oh,
lost
no.
my
I was just going to say that's the other thing. If you're feeling a little dejected about sales, and that when I started my private database, totaling up my sales, it's like, oh, I have sold work, and so it's kind of a reinforcement that you're doing what you should do.
I remember what I wanted to say. It's also important when you have an inventory, because I've been looking into that a lot, that you track where your piece has been. Because when you go for an interview or you send something to a gallery or you send a painting that a collector bought or something like that, it's very important to have track of where this piece has been. Like, let's say I have a piece that was in Art Santa Fe, and you write where all the pieces has gone, where all the piece has gone, and when someone buys it, it increases the like, not maybe not the value, but the value of the piece, to say, well, this one was in this gallery and this one was in this show and this one was at this museum for some time, and all of that. It's very important in your inventory to be able to have all that tracked down.
Absolutely. Because once again, that's that provenance piece.
Mhm.
Renee, did you have a question? You're on mute.
Yes, I have a question. I totally agree with Sophie regarding the increased value if you have tracks of where you have exhibited your art. I think that's very important. It's also, in my case, I write it down at the certificate of authentication with the first seller, the second seller, and so on. So I think that it really does increase your artwork, the value of the artwork. My question is the following. As you know, I live in Mexico, and I don't know how much power you can have to influence with the Mexican um, um, the taxes and all that stuff that I have to go through to export my art to the United States. Mexico art is a red flag. So because we had a lot of explosion, all the cultural goods went to different countries in the 70s and 80s. So to Germany or to Spain or whatever. I mean the old art from Aztecs and Mayans and so on. So from that point on, Mexico said we have to be very careful what gets out of Mexico. So for contemporary artists, it's very complicated to get our art out of Mexico to any part of the world. So I have to fill out, I don't know how many documents and temporary um, exemptions for exhibits, and it's very, very complicated. So I don't know if you could have any influence in that to make it easier, so that and I have to pay a lot of taxes on my own art to export it, and also the shipping and handling is extremely expensive. So I don't know how Redwood Media Group could try to make this easier for foreigners. That's it.
We do make it easy. We do make it easy. Number one, there aren't any tariffs on original artwork coming into the United States right now.
I know that.
Yeah, okay. Number two, if you do ship a crate to any one of our shows and participate in the show, let's say you did San Diego in October, and you could ship one crate, 2 crates, I don't care. And we deliver the crate to your booth, and you set up your work and you do the show, and whether you sell or not, that's kind of up to you. But after the show is over, you pack your crate up in your booth and you leave the crate in your booth. And if you're signed up for another one of our events, we'll load the crate on our truck, take it to our warehouse. It won't leave the United States, and we'll deliver it to the next show you want to participate in.
I understand that, Eric. I've participated with you in the past.
Yeah.
In New York and Spectrum Miami, and that was in the past with Artblend, who doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And I understand that, but since Joseph left the business, when the last time I exhibited in Dallas, I agreed with a friend of mine to store for me in Miami my artwork that I had exhibited with you, because it's such a hassle to bring the paintings back to Mexico.
Yeah.
So I have like 20 artworks stored in Miami to not go through all the whole hustle. And therefore, I also have an inventory: what is in the States, what is in Mexico, what is in which gallery. But what I meant is there a legal action from, I don't know, the arts union or whatever from the States to try to make things easier for foreigners from their country to export their goods? There are not red flags, that there are simply goods that are being exported. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, that's, in our government here, that's what lobbyists come in. People pay a lot of money to sway the Congress one way or the other. And, that's how that type of things happen. But no, I mean, we work with a really good freight forwarder in Phoenix Logistics. I've known Phil Hobson for 30 plus years, and Phoenix Logistics is by far the best shipping company we've ever worked with when it comes to international shipping. If you want their number, I can give you his cell phone directly.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll have Linda send that to you. I'll give it to her, but they do an outstanding job. They get you through customs. They make sure that the tax rate is whatever it should be. They know every in and out about shipping internationally. They probably are priced 10% higher than other shipping companies, and a lot of our exhibitors have, gone with other companies, and then they get to the border and they're like, oh my God, and then they end up calling Phoenix Logistics anyway. So they're the best ones.
Okay, thank you. Because my experience with DHL, for example, I have an agreement with them, has been very, very bad. That they have had very mix-up things when sent back to Mexico, where I had to pay taxes on my own paintings to get them back to Mexico. So uh, it's kind of hard to sell your art,
Yeah,
and where you have to pay taxes over your unsold paintings, it's kind of discouraging, you know.
yeah. And then, you know, whether you're shipping across the country or internationally, the easiest, if you can roll even if you can roll canvas, send it to, like in Miami, we have a really good framer, a friend of mine, Kavi Abrashami, and he will stretch the canvas and deliver it to your booth. And then you don't have to pay them. You know, you can put it in a tube. So,
Okay, I would appreciate it very much if you could send me that information.
yeah.
Because I'm really interested in specifically in New York. That my size of paintings is small. In Miami, I found out they really want very large pieces because of the big mansions.
Mhm.
So New York is a better venue for me than Miami, for example.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eric, I have a little question here. I'm wondering how IFAM is bringing in all of these unsold works, you know, to IFAM, what they do in terms of helping all the artisans and artists bring their work in.
I don't know. They're a different model than we are. They're kind of like the other art fair where, you know, you go to a station and you pay for all the work directly to IFAM, and then they distribute the proceeds or a portion of the proceeds or whatever it may be back to the artists. And they're a nonprofit.
Right.
So, you know, they're just set up completely differently than we are. I mean, we are still, you know, we provide a service of displaying equipment, meaning walls and lights and, you know, coordination and marketing and buyers and all of that. It's up to you to make the sales. We help educate you like we're doing now the best we can, but, you know, it's still up to you to collect the money. It's your business. And, you know, that's why, like if you look at our Miami events and you look at the big booths that are absorbed in Red Dot and Spectrum, those are the same exhibitors that come back every, you know, they're pros and they know what they're doing. In the solo section, you know, maybe 40–50% of them come back because the other ones don't succeed. And that, or they get picked up by a gallery and then I never see them again anyway. They're never an exhibitor anymore. They're still there. They're just not paying us any money. You
They're
know,
kind of like, thank you very much, but
yeah, and that's fine. You know, we're always looking for new good talent. You know, but we did have, I'll tell you a quick experience out in New York. We did have a couple exhibitors that I've talked to them a million times about displaying their work, and they did just the worst job in decorating their booth and hanging the work. And I'm not going to have them back. I'm just gonna, and they bought a big space. You know, they spent in the neighborhood of almost $30,000 with me, and I'm not going to invite them back. It's just I just don't like the display. I just didn't like it, and it's not good for the show. I think they end up making money by selling, you know, different spaces to artists, but it's not good for us, and they don't sell because as we keep preaching, you know. I mean, Mary Lynn and Susan's booth looked great and they sold. And if you don't hang your booth properly, you know, people know. I mean, it's just, you know, so. It's like they took one of those t-shirt guns and just shot them all up on the wall instead of.
It was wallpaper. It
Yeah.
wasn't, and some of it not very good, but you couldn't figure out what to look at. And Eric's right. It was, and they would not change it as many times as I went over there and encouraged following the guidelines. So that's the outcome. All right. So next month, let's take a look at inventory I think that the other thing that let's do a little bit of exploring about is, you know, I've been seeing a lot of this lately where artists, galleries have a online
Oh, yeah.
in-room setup kind of thing where you can see the artwork in a room setup. And I'm going to do a little bit of research on that. I see more and more and more of it, and it might be something that's useful in terms of something to have on your website, so people can, you know, put a picture up of their room and see the artwork on their wall. Sophie, you had your hand up.
I did a lot of research on that again. So what I found the best one is art rooms.
Okay.
That's
All
the
right.
best. That's the best for the most reasonable price.
Okay. All right. Well,
Think-
let's
Maya,
all have a look at that. Vivian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if we're, I don't want to, and I don't want to stop the flow of this conversation, but I wanted to say something about my boost that I think might be helpful to other people. But Rebecca, did you want to say something about that?
well, I
About
was going to
the,
say that
the art room?
I love Art Placer. And
Art
so I have that on my website so people can look at, you know, one of my paintings, and they can upload a photograph of the room or the space that they want to put it in, and they can see that, or they can choose a generic room. But I've also started using it for laying out my booth at Art Santa Fe.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Which I love. Yeah, and that you can, you know, you can adjust the dimensions to your booth and start laying them in. Start laying in your paintings, the sidewalls, and it's awesome, I think.
So Laura has posted in the chat both the art rooms as well as the art placer. So let's all take a look at that and come back and see what we think about that next month. Okay, well, this has been terrific. Thank you all. Oh, wait, Vivian, you had
Okay, if we
something.
have time, I did do a boost, and I boosted a video of one of my standalone sculptures that I had in Art Santa Fe. And I must have put in the geographic preferences, but it was really interesting what came back. For one thing, it was my reach was good. I got 1,800 reaches, etc. But the top locations for my work, 50%. So I'm from Santa Fe, for those on the call that don't know. New York, I had 52% people who saw my ad. I thought that was interesting. California had 35, Colorado, and then Texas, and then New Mexico only had 1.3%. And then it goes by gender. So the majority of mine were male that looked at my work. And then the age range, the majority were in the 25 to 34 range. So if nothing else, you can get an idea of the demographics of who's looking at your work.
Mhm. Well, I think some of that is also reflective of population, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
That's true.
so, you know, New Mexico doesn't have the population
That's true.
concentration that California or New York do.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think that that's terrific. You know that your work is appealing to, you know, a large demographic well outside of where you
Mm-hmm.
are. So I
So
think
that's good. All right. Thank you.
so, you know, keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
Keep, you know, moving your social media activities forward. And we'll continue to talk about that too, because I think it's important. It's, you know, it's where the It's where the eyeballs are. So we all need to be very cognizant of that. All right, well, have a great month. Hopefully the weather warms up a little bit. And the snow's not too bad, Linda.
I don't think it will be.
It's
Ground's warm
snowing
enough, it'll
here.
go away.
It's
It's
Sophie's
snowing
already
here
got-
right now.
Sophie's already got the snow, so I guess it's coming.
It is snowing right now.
Yep. And you are in Vancouver or
No, I'm
where
in
are you?
Montreal.
Montreal? You're on the other side of the country.
I am.
So you'll be getting mine after it comes through to me.
It's already here.
All right, you guys, have a
Have a
good month.
good night. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Good night.
Bye.